Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the next episode of Unspoken Challenges, solving email marketing challenges that few talk about. This is the third of 6 monthly episodes where we are diving into those less spoken issues facing you, the email marketer. In each of these information-rich events, our experts are sharing practical tips and advice based on real-world scenarios to help you optimize your email marketing and maximize customer lifetime value. And we got a cracker set up for you today. I'm your host, Evan-Tudor, and I'm a fractional CMO, primarily working with SaaS companies that are transitioning from startup to scale up. The benefit of a fractional CMO is that you get the marketing leader that you need to plan your growth while being able to put your money into your marketing rather than into your marketer. Now, we're going to be answering your questions during our panel discussion, so please get those questions into the Q&A panel on your right. And so we'll ask those at the end. You'll also notice there's a comments box, and the comments box is for comments. Actually, it's not comments, it's chat, isn't it? It's chat in this platform. So you'll see that Holistic and Kath have already put something in the chat. I'll tell you what. Let's give this a go. In the last episode, I asked for people to tell us where they were from and the weather where they were, because it was May and the weather in the UK was abysmal. It's now June and the weather is still abysmal. We have had one good week since then, but not much more. So today, put in the chat where you are and when you think summer will arrive, or if you're being typically or very cynical, if we've already had it. So where you are and when you think summer will arrive. Kath, that's showing off Antigua, and it's here. So from my point of view, you know what? I think we got so lucky with last summer that maybe we should just be thankful for that, right? We were in full lockdown and the weather was amazing. Although I did see Carol Kirkwood on the TV this morning, and she promises that we'll have some hot weeks coming up in July and August. So I'm hopefully going to be out of the country for a bit of that time. So I'm hoping get some good weather when I get back in August. So before we go any further, I'd like to take some time to thank our sponsors, without which none of this would be possible. The Unspoken Challenges series is brought to you by Holistic Email Marketing and Actito, the world's #1 independent customer activation platform to connect, aggregate, and analyze and activate. Actito unlocks the power of your data. Now, as I said, we've got a cracker for you today. But before we get to that, let's see. All right, we've got Janine says she's in Oxford and there were 3 days of summer. We've already had it. Laura's near Manchester. And she says summer will arrive as soon as my husband and I set up our tent in the Lake District this week. Laura, I'm hoping for you. I really am hoping for you. I'm off to Wales to go camping this weekend, and the weather is not looking promising. Natalie says that July all the way through to September. That'd be awesome. Anyway, so far in this series, we've looked at the importance of delivering a great customer experience with your email marketing. And then in the last episode, we gave you tips on mapping that customer journey to deliver that great customer experience. Now today, we're going to take a deeper dive into the fuel for those customer journeys. See what I did there? Journey, fuel. Okay. Data is the fuel for customer journeys. Acquiring it and managing it is only part of the challenge. You also have to know what data you have and how best to use it to help your customers, and therefore you, be successful. So we've got 4 great speakers with us today. First up, we've got Kath Pay talking about how to be proactive with your data. Then we have Jonathan, put a T in that last part, Jonathan Wuurman from Actito, I've been working on that all week, who will walk you through how to activate your data and engage your audience. And then we're going to wrap up with a panel discussion. And as I said, we're going to be taking your questions, but joining us in the panel is going to be Jessica Evan-Tudor, who's a senior CRM manager at Rated People, and Natalie Hutton, who's got some high hopes for summer, but she's also the head of customer at High Street. So some really great practical examples for them to go through during the Q&A. Also, one lucky participant is going to win a Kindle copy of Kath's book, Holistic Email Marketing. So I'm going to ask Kath to join me on stage while I introduce her. So as I said, first up, we have Kath Pay, founder and CEO of Holistic Email Marketing. In addition to being a best-selling author and that her book being a finalist in the Business Book Awards, Kath was recently recognized as the 2021 EEC Thought Leader of the Year. And if you didn't catch it in the chat, Kath is coming to us from Antigua. But we won't be jealous. Kath, over to you.
Well, if it helps at all, it's raining here today.
Oh, darn. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I know, but I can handle it.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm going to kick off today's event with it's a very practical one, and it's going to give you a whole heap of ideas and just a sort of just trying to fuel your imagination for how you can actually not just be proactive, right, with your data, but also use your data to solve your business challenges, because at the end of the day, that's really, that's one of the key factors and the key benefits and USPs of email marketing, is that because it's that push channel, and because we have so much metrics and we have so much data, we can actually use it to help drive, objectives and goals and solve problems. So we'll get into that in a minute. Just quickly, this is me, as you can see. If you want to contact me, there's my contact details. As Skip referred or referenced, I am actually in Antigua. I moved from Australia to the United Kingdom to Antigua. There's something about the whole sort of, water around, the place I'm living in. So if you hear roosters, goats, dogs, all the rest of it, welcome to Antigua. Yeah, so please excuse them. And then, as Skip said, I've just written a book. It also actually got to be a highly recommended in the Business Book Awards, which is absolutely brilliant, and as a bestseller on Amazon. And yes, as Skip said, one of you will win a Kindle copy of that today. And this, finally, before I get started, this is just a sample of our customers that we have had the absolute pleasure and honor to work with. We work with some fantastic brands, some big ones, as you can see, but we also work with small brands as well. And we just love helping as much as we possibly can. And we mainly do, because we are a consultancy rather than an agency, we mainly do like the strategic things, the audits and strategies and so on. So I'm going to kick off today with just a little bit of a state of play, right? So where are we today? And if you start to think about today in 2021 and what has happened to us in the last year, you'll know there's been a lot of things happening with data. We're literally, some people are just scrambling, trying to work out what to do with all the data, because they've got new customers on board and all the rest of it. And there's a lot of marketers out there who are literally having a difficult time. This is a report literally just released this week, right? So data crisis impeding customer experience at leading global organizations. And what they found was 61% of the survey respondents said that capturing and making sense of digital customer data is difficult for them. So now we're talking the majority, right? So that means only, basically less than 40% actually can make sense. And I've got good processes in there. So this is why this topic is so important. And today I'm going to try and help as much as possible, as I know is Jonathan and also the panel. So the DMA Marketer Email Tracker 2020 also just released. It's just one of the questions they asked was, what are the most significant challenges to successfully executing your email marketing programs? select all, right? You'll see data is the second one. In fact, you'll see 2019, people had more of a handle on it than they do, in 2020, right? So when you start looking at it, I mean, we know, and this is really interesting too. Look at the first one, budget and resources. We know that there is a problem with attribution in email marketing, and budget and resources is always a struggle and a challenge for email marketers, right? So that's pretty much a given for the now. So the next main one is that data factor. So essentially, if this is you, if you are struggling, if you really don't know what to do, if you don't have the tech, if you don't have the know-how or the data team, the insights team and everything like that, know that you're not alone. I know it's not much, but at least it's something. And another question that the report asked: how would you rate your organization's overall level of sophistication in the following areas of email marketing? So we can see here for data management, the one I've got boxed there, we can see that only 15% have got it down that they're leading, that they're doing a good job, right? So it's certainly not the majority. It's not the worst one. We can see here the multi-channel integration is actually slightly worse. But still, it's just, again, this is why this topic is so important, which is why we wanted to talk about it. Because at the end of the day, your customer data is literally a gold mine for you. As I referred to before, email marketing is that push channel, right? And we leverage that data. We call upon that data to actually be identifying who we're going to be sending to. But, that's at the most minimal. Who are we going to be automating our campaigns to and everything? How are we going to be personalizing to them? But that is literally, that's just the top of the surface as such. We really need to delve in deeper, because there's a lot of insights that we can use to actually unlock and resolve business problems. And there may not actually even be problems. They may just be questions, or they may be goals or objectives, right? So anything that that you're sort of thinking, well, if ever there's a question, I wonder if, I wonder why, I wonder what, that kind of thing, you probably can look to your data and have a look at some insights. And then sometimes you'll be extrapolating, because you are looking at historical data, and it's not always indicative of what's going forward, but it still is going to be better than sending out batch and blast, right? If in my books, if you can't do the ultimate, then do the next best, right? And historical data can help with that. So data mining can answer questions like, right, who are my best customers and how can I get more of them? How can I increase average order value? How can I persuade more customers to buy at full price? How can I shorten the period to first purchase or conversion if they're not buying? And how can I bring back more one-time or special occasion buyers? Now, I literally just picked these. I mean, I could have written for hundreds of questions, right? Because these are all the kind of things that we need to have knowledge of with our audience, so that we can then help them, right? And put in those programs and the automated programs and the processes and everything in order to help them. So what I've got and done here is I've got listed 3 different challenges, because, if we want to find where the answers are, they're in your data. They're often lurking, though. That's they're lurking in your data. And the challenge is, of course, trying to actually pull them out. And if you're a small team, then, you don't have that data insight team at your hands. Or sometimes, I was actually saying this in another panel the other day, sometimes even if you do have a data team, they're so busy, and email referencing the lack of budget, lack of resources. I'm going to add to that low priority for some reason. It doesn't make sense. We deliver the highest ROI, right? But anyhow, so often it's also, you know, there are other priorities for the BI team to actually be delivering upon, which therefore means that you sometimes struggle, or you might be waiting too long for it, and then it doesn't turn up in time and you can't use it, and so on. So today I'm going to just sort of try and point you in the right direction, and then try and help you to not have to keep doing it, but also recommend some automated programs that you can be putting in place, which will then automatically be you know, addressing these issues. So 3 common business challenges to proactively solve using data. The first one is people who browse but never buy. Now, I know that we all have that, right? And it's very, very irritating. You know, if you look at a database, you'll see that you'll have a lot of prospects, a good percentage of prospects, probably more than customers. And then out of your customers, you've probably got 80% of your customers have only bought once, right? So we're going to be addressing those kind of problems, because that's what they are. They're problems, right? So people who browse but never buy, these are the guys who come back, they've been there, maybe they've only been there once, maybe they've been there a couple of times, but for some reason they've never actually committed. They've never actually, there's the rooster, they've never actually, you know, gone through and followed through the process. So what we've got here is we've got some questions. Again, this is just top of the pile of questions. There are many, many more you can be asking, but this is, I guess, you know, just to sort of get those juices flowing from you. Questions like you can ask, what source do they come from, right? So what is driving them? Are they all coming from the same source or a similar source? And therefore, maybe you need to have a look at your budget there. You need to look at your criteria. You know, there's a whole heap of then questions that come out of the answer that you have there. What identifying data do I have on them? What characteristics do they share? So is there anything in particular that you sort of go, okay, so now we're going to also then possibly start looking at personas, right? So is there a persona who is particularly hard to convert? And therefore you're going to be asking the next question, how can I convert more of this particular persona or more of this group, this segment, into being the first-time purchasers? You know, how can I help them? Where are they going on the site, and what pages do they visit the most often, right? That's going to give you some insights. And then again, if you see that there's some similarities and everything, start again, more questions will come and evolve, and then some actions. And then what do actually your successful first-time purchasers buy? And is that then a good thing that you could be actually pitching to these non-buyers, right? These prospects who haven't converted. So now we're going to try and solve the problem. Like I said, you know, I'm doing the very, very basic. This is literally just sort of the basic steps. There's going to be a lot more involved in this, but it's great exercise. It's a fantastic exercise with the team. A lot of it can be done just in a meeting beforehand, doing lots of brainstorming, and then setting tasks to actually go delving into the data, right? So solving the problem, you can be offering content. So they may be interested, which is certainly if they're repeat visitors, but they haven't purchased, that means that it's possibly a timing issue more than a lack of interest issue. So they're just waiting for the right time, or they're waiting for the right product. They like your brand, whatever the story is. So, you know, offer different types of content and see what resonates best with them, whether it is like an educational blog, or is it just products? Is it sale? Are they mainly active during sale time? You know, start looking at those kind of things. Address their objections. So this is really, really key. There's always objections to buying. I don't know the brand. You know, I'm not sure about the feedback. Is actually all of the testimonies on the site, are they to be trusted? Blah blah blah. There's so many objections that consumers will come up before they buy. So try and address as many of them. You can do that you can do it on the website, of course, in the FAQs, but you can also be doing that in a conversion program to these guys if you pull them out as a segment and really try and address those objections. And don't just sort of say, you don't have to be overt when you're doing this. You can be very covert with it and just sort of be addressing their objections in a very clever way. Look for, and this is a big one, and correct any disconnects and conversion barriers, right? So we're all individuals. Some people, the UI might be fine with, other ones are possibly a little bit more particular, and if there's a barrier, they're not as motivated or as keen. So any little barrier to conversion might be enough to turn them off, and they bounce, right? So really go through that. Do a big audit of your customer journey and ensure that there are no disconnects. And then the last one here, again, it's not really the last because there's plenty more, but the last one for today's example is establish an automated first purchase program. Now, I know if anyone's ever heard me speak before, they've probably heard me call it a first purchase program instead of a welcome program, right? So I personally like to name things. I believe the power of words, right? Words are incredibly powerful, and they can affect our minds. So, negative and positive. So if we call it a welcome program, guess what we're going to be focused on? We're going to be focused on welcoming them. But is that actually the goal? No, that's a sub goal. Of course, we want to welcome them. Hey, you've just signed up. Great, welcome, right? But then that's it. We're done and dusted. Now we want to convert them. So we want to be calling it a first purchase program because that's our objective for this particular program. So start to think about that. Look at the products and the categories that they've browsed on the site. Bring in the most popular, first purchases or products that most are made with the first purchase. So on and so on. Try and address any of those objections as well, and all the rest of it. So really make this a brilliant program. Now, and one of the key things too, which we've spoken about before and everything too, is this is going to be a brilliant program, okay? Because I know it is, because you guys are really going to work hard on it. And if you've already got one in place, you're probably going to be looking at it, reviewing and optimizing, right? But what I want you to do is, if you haven't got one in place, don't take it as a big lump sum. So don't sort of go, I've got to create 5 emails and then only then will I make it live. Make the first one live, then work on the second one, right? You're going to be doing it so that they're not ad hoc, that they're all singing from the same hymn sheet, that they're all, supporting each other and working to the same objective. But what I'm saying is that get it live sooner rather than later, because also you can start learning. You can start looking at it and seeing what works, what doesn't work, tweaking it, and then making changes for the second one accordingly, okay? So now we're going to look at number 2. Now, most people would look at this and go, that's not a challenge. That's not a problem. It is if you're not treating them differently, if you're not being respectful, if you're not appreciating them, if you haven't got a good, solid retention plan in place to keep these guys as being your top spenders, then you will have a problem. Because often top spenders, remember I said to you, out of your customer database, and this is, the Pareto principle 2 times over, you have 80% of customers are one-time purchases. So only 20% of your database has actually purchased multiple times. And I've confirmed this with many of my clients. It's not always the same, but in general, right? And then Pareto principle, again, out of that 20% of multi-time customers, very likely 20% of those guys are actually your top spenders, but they're actually delivering 80% of the revenue. So that's why it's a problem if you lose them. So you really need to start finding out more about them and treating them differently. So ask these questions. What characteristics do they have in common? Which of these characteristics can I use to increase their number, make them feel appreciated, encourage them to increase their average order value, and become brand advocates, right? How did I acquire these customers? What channels, what ads, which campaigns actually drive them to act? These are all incredible insights that we can actually not just use to help these guys, but also use to identify potential other top spenders that you can nurture into being top spenders, right? What do they buy most often, and what do they buy at is it at full price or is it with discounts? Okay, all valid questions. So to solve the problem, you want to be reviewing your acquisition source and identifying, is there actually one particular source or a couple of main sources where they're coming from? But these guys here, if there is true, you want to be putting more money into them, right? And if you've identified that there's other sources that actually lead to really contributing majorly to those prospects who don't actually buy, then maybe you want to take the money from there and put it into these ones, right? Set up a loyalty program. It's, there's a lot of fantastic tools out there, systems out there, programs out there that you can actually be leveraging to actually do your loyalty program. Again, if you're small and you don't actually have that, budget to do that, then just start treating them differently. Just pull them out as a segment and just say, as one of our most valued customers, or, as someone who has, frequented us the most, because you want to be looking at, how you define top spenders is going to be, you're going to be looking at customer lifetime value. You can be looking at it on a monthly basis. You can be looking at it also, do you want to be talking about the frequency in to do with, so therefore you'd be looking at the RFM, right? Side of things. So there's a whole heap of different ways that you can be determining how to do that. And this is the one that I sort of said, that if you don't have the ability to actually have an official loyalty program, just treat them differently. And you can just, create a little program off the back, just segmentation, and call it, your special member type thing, little perks and privileges and stuff. But obviously you'll need to keep it simple. If you're doing it manually, of course, if you've got a program or, that allows you, a platform that allows you to do that, that's a lot easier. But essentially, if you think about it, we really just it's all about recognition and appreciation. People love being recognized and they love being appreciated. And they're more likely to stay loyal to you if you actually recognize them. If you pull them out from the rest of your database and say, you know what, hey, I know you and I appreciate you, right? So that's the basis, the essence of it. The third one, I kind of referred to this earlier. So people who use coupons or discounts and other incentives to buy for the first time. Now, to be honest, in retail, this is often a very common scenario, right? And this is often the case of, because, like I said, most people are a little bit concerned, and so sometimes it takes a discount for them to actually sort of. It's all about the risk that they're taking, the risk to reward, isn't it? So if it's a reduced risk because you've dropped the price a bit and given them a discount, then the reward is actually a little bit better for them and they're a bit safer. So understand that this is often going to be the case. But the challenge here is making sure that they don't only ever buy when there's a deal on, or when there's a discount, or by using a coupon. You don't want to be conditioning them to be reliant upon that. You want them to be able to understand that, hey, that customer service was brilliant, the product was fantastic, everyone says I look great in that dress, whatever the story is, you want them to be buying on, the value that they're receiving from you, rather than the value that you're actually giving them by doing the discount. Yeah. So try and ask these questions. What characteristics do they have in common? What source did they come from? Can you see that there's a little bit of, continuity happening there? What incentives do first-time buyers use most often? Do incentivized users eventually become shop shoppers? That's a really, really good question to ask, right? And again, when you're looking at that, how many times have they bought? Is it regularly? Is it just the first purchase? Is it every now and then? You know, that kind of stuff. So really try and get into it. Will a first-time incentivized shopper only buy again when offered another coupon or discount incentive? So these are really valid questions to be asking. And what you want to be doing then to solve the problem is, I've put these ones in here because it's going to help you do the metrics and tracking better. So if you use unique discount incentive codes throughout the customer journey, so maybe one for top of funnel, one for mid funnel, one for bottom funnel, and you can see where they're dropping out, so where you're offering that particular incentive, you can begin to understand that what happens is, okay, so the majority are actually dropping off at the top of funnel, right? What do we need to do? Do we need to make changes on our website? Do we need to be having, you know, that program in place? That nurturing program in place. So not just a simple abandoned shopping cart type process, but one that's an education that addresses their concerns. Right, so you can start to actually learn more about your customers by doing this because you're tracking, and then test those different incentives as well throughout the journey. So you want to be doing, you know, so whether it's a percentage off or whether it's free delivery or, you know, whatever the incentive is that you're going to use, you'll have a number of them. Start testing them, and then measure and track to see where in the journey it's best to offer a code. Identify which campaigns drive them to act. Track your discount shoppers for conversion to full price shopping, including customer lifetime value, right? So that's basically, you're kind of doing a comparison, and you're also looking at them all the way through, right? And seeing what it is that they do. And out of that, you know, you'll probably have a good percentage who will go on to buy full price, but then you'll probably have a good percentage who will only ever buy when there's a sale on. And then one of the things you can do is implement a second purchase program to really try and get them to purchase at full price. You know, you can be using social proof and, you know, really just trying to reach out to them and, again, provide the value that you offer, right? And really push that rather than the actual discount. So that there's some ideas of what you can be doing, what questions you need to be asking, the kind of things, reports you want to be pulling from your data. And I'm just going to round up with this takeaways. Use your data to solve your business problems and goals, right? Because a lot of people say, we're swimming in data, we don't know what to do with it. One of the things that I believe that they don't know what to do with it is they actually don't know what to do with it. It's not that necessarily even that they don't know how, they just don't know what to do with it. They don't know what problems to solve. So hopefully I've broken it down very simply for you today. I believe in starting small with most things, right? Like I said, with the automated program, start with the first one and then build it up. Start small, ease your way into it. Ask one question, answer that one question, get a bit of data, a bit of insights, a bit of confidence, put that automated program or that segment in place, get some more learnings, go back, go, wow, look at this, guys. You know, this is what we did. Build that business case, present to the C-suite, and they go, that's amazing. Right. Well, maybe we need to give you a little bit more budget, or maybe we need to pull on a data guy to help you with this, so on and so on. Right. So that's a good way of doing it. And then simply at the very end, work smarter by using automations. You'll see most of the examples I used, they were automations. And what that means is that you've gone in, you've done your research, you've done your insights, and then you've gone in and put in an automation, which now is going to be pulling out those particular people and segments and everything like this, which means you don't have to keep doing it. That doesn't mean, of course, that you just leave it and never ever look at that automation again. You have to be optimizing, as we saw with 2019 and 2020 and 2021, right? 2020, yeah, that's right. We are completely different. Each year has been completely different. So you definitely have to keep looking at it, optimizing it, tweaking it, asking certain questions, seeing has your audience changed, has their behavior changed. Consumers' behavior and how they use email are changing all the time. If you can, get yourself a copy of that. There's a DMA consumer tracking report. It shows you what the consumers are doing nowadays with email. It's just out. And that's it from me. Like I said, here's my book. If you haven't got it, go get it. And someone is going to get a Kindle version of it today. Thank you very, very much. I'm heading off now. I'm looking forward to the panel, and I'm really looking forward to Jonathan's presentation coming up now.
Kath, that was great. Thank you. Thank you for that. I have to say, though, I've heard of island time, but never island years. Do years work differently in Antigua as well?
What do you mean? What did I do?
You got a little confused as to what year it was. But that's okay. That's fine. Also, there's so many questions in there in your presentation. You said 3 key challenges, and I'm like, cool. I can manage 3 key challenges. I now have a to-do list that's, I can't even get it in the screen. It's like that long. But that was great. And one of the things that I think we'll dig into in the Q&A is you're talking about the 61% of marketers struggling to capture and make sense of data. So one of the things that I want to ask all the panelists, so you can start thinking about this, is it possible to have too much data? Because I know what my gut answer is, but then I've got a different one as well. So start to ponder that. In the meantime, we are going to bring up John. I'm going to ask him to come to the stage just now. Right. So our second presentation today comes from Jonathan Wuurman, the VP of Marketing at Actito. I love the name. I absolutely love the name. And for those
love my name because it's complex to say. It's real. Go.
The story behind it is the best. So for those, I don't want to ruin it. Go to LinkedIn, search John out, and listen to. Not only does he pronounce his name for you, but then he tells you why his name is the way it is, and it's a very fun story.
Okay, you test out the little speaker on LinkedIn to get that information. Lovely.
Yeah,
and do
awesome.
Connect with pleasure. With pleasure.
So just quickly, the other thing is I loved the way the little description of yourself that you sent over to me. Basically, folks, what it said was, like many of us, when John came into marketing, he knew Ada, Spin, SWAT, and Jerry Maguire, which is an interesting combination of things. But now he's the VP of marketing. He's the VP of marketing of a marketing activation platform, Actito, as you all know, for brands willing to leverage data. Now, John, you're a firm believer that data is something you earn. And I love the way you phrase that data is earned, not won, not acquired, not gathered. It's earned. Exactly. I think that's really cool. And I also love the fact that you said that everything in your life would only be possible by the support of a beautiful woman and a football mad or soccer mad, if you happen to be in America, 11-year-old little boy. So welcome.
Great. Thank you for that amazing introduction.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah, sure. I will.
Okay. Why don't you kick off, and I'll see you on the other side.
Okay, lovely. I will just ask the audience if you see my screen, just to be sure that everything is working fine. If I get just a thumb up, it would be amazing. Thank you again, everybody. Thank you, Kath. Thank you to the panelists for being there. I'm really excited to be here, and I met Kath 12 years ago, so a really long time. We will skip that one because I just noticed we get about 20 minutes and not 30 minutes like I think. So in my agenda, I want to bring you in what we see as problems with our customer, and the idea of this session is really to share as much as we can out of 12-year experience I've built at Actito, ways to solve it. I will talk to you about SOX and you will tell me what is that again. Agile is really something we think it's the best way. And I think Kath really relate to that in the examples and the how-to. It was really practical and handy. And I think that it's also part of Agile. And we will talk a little bit about John Doe. If it goes very too fast, just drop it in the chat. I will try to slow down and maybe zap a few slides. So I just see that my slides are a bit cropped, but that's not an issue. So industry winners master customer activation. That is definitely key. And just think at brands like Apple, for instance, or Nike, or even like Secret Labs, how they master those interactions with you as a prospect and then a customer. If I take that seat, for example, they take more than 4 months to ship it, and they had 12 touch points with me, and I would have been somewhere over here because I did that purchase. They were telling your seat get out of the factory, your seat is sent to the painting, and I could really follow that journey. And that was the amount of interaction they were building with me, and of course trying to collect more data and try to upsell, cross-sell, and everything you can imagine. And to me, that wheel that you see over there, that infinity loop, is what will make you a profitable business. And that is what we try all to do today. And that is where I think there are a lot of people working on retention, if I can get it right today. So that loop is very where we as marketers and brands should focus also a lot of energy, and not only on the acquisition part, but I will get back to that. And just keep in mind, I know that we have some American friends over here, 37% of Americans customers start to feel basically loyal to a brand and stick with you after 5 or more purchases, which relay again very good to Kath's example. That is where the magic happens and where company grows. Don't trust me. Have an amazing marketing team. They put a lot of content, and you can see how, for instance, Damar, which is also very well known, I think in the UK, 113% in traffic increase by doing activation marketing, by activating data and working on that. 17% increase in order. All the gems, all the how-to are packed into that article. And you can, if you're in the e-commerce, I think somebody of Pandora is there as well. They show how they use a scenario on a wish list, and by playing with vouchers and promotion, they were able to generate 30K revenue in a month. You want to have a look at it, just flash the QR code. I think you'll get probably all your mobile next to you. That was the best way I had to share with you a lot of content. That is something really important for me. It's the word value. And there is a lot of things I could share with you today that are basically my opinion. I do think my boss do agree with it. And when Skip was talking about owning data or basically winning data in a relation way, that's something my boss explained me. And I think this is where the value of a brand is. That's mix of quantity and quality. So the amount of relationships that the brand built with the customer, and if you multiply that by the CLV, that stands for customer long time value, that is really building the value of your brand, the strongness of your brand, the stickiness of your brand. It's just that I like that visual, and we print that out. Really fast, sorry again. I know retention, I talk a lot about the loop, and we will talk about that loop a lot. And it's just to give you an idea, and thank you, Mikael, for making that slide. If you take the left side, it's acquisition. You push money in there, and at the end of the day, that is your return. It's that, like that penny at the end. If you are shifting a little bit of that money more to the retention, that is the impact it can have on your revenue, on your business. And so it's not about shifting everything, it's about taking apart so that you can push it in your upsell, cross-sell, grow, nurturing, retention program. Just keep that in mind, that this is the way to go, and definitely in the business we are talking today. So Kath already touched a lot about it, so it's good for me, so I may speed up on those. But data, and that is definitely the first problem that people express to us to define the fact that they cannot start with activation marketing, with activating their data, because they don't have any data. And it's lovely. It's like, I was previously a sales guy at Actito. A prospect will always tell you, I don't have data, I don't have time, I don't have budget. Those are all partially true, but I will show you that it's maybe not that true as that. So I love the picture again of that little boy. then you get that guy, and let's say that that guy is the IT manager, and you will hear a lot that for those guys, they cannot help you for many reasons. And my personal take on that, it's not that they don't want to help you, you just don't talk the same language as those guys. You say, drop me data so that I can do email personalization, but you're not specific. You don't understand what are their requirements, how is that structure at their site, what it will take to them to provide you that. So it's really about building that conversation. And we do focus a lot at Actito on the marketing operator that help, and we try to help him getting buy-in with IT. We had a physical party yesterday, and it felt so good for me to be able to be with my engineers again and talking about the challenges, because that helped me better understand the bigger picture. So really, that is not that IT don't want to help you, you just don't talk the same language, and the result is that they don't help you, which is, according to me, again, really different. And then the third one, it's prioritization. Like I said, time, budget will always be something that come on the table, but at a certain time, you need to talk with your C-suite and with your founders, because priorities are defined in team, and it's for the good of your customer and the company. So even if you get a lot of pushback from IT, if your boss put it back as his most important piece for the 3 coming months, you can adapt priorities. So really keep that in mind. It's really about getting that buy-in. At the end of the day, you sell to people, but you also work with people internally. And just also, little gem, keep in mind, expect delays. It's like, expect when you provide your credit card and that the sales are open, that your lovely lady will spend more money than what you were expecting with your credit card. Delay with project is also that way. It's the same when you buy a house. You buy a house for 200K, be sure that you will pay 250 at the end. So those are the 3 elements. I think it boils pretty well down with what Kath was sharing. And I want to help you think about solving those problems. And that is really the beauty, I think, as a marketer today. It's if there is a problem, you need to find a solution. And that's, again, it's much more about a mindset. So you have much more data than you think. And I think that library really show it. The only thing, again, it's that you don't know where to start. And whiteboards is, for instance, a good way, but there is even a better way. It's follow your customer journey. And that is damn important to say. We always talk that we need to be uber focused on the customer, that we do everything for the customer. But then sometimes I wonder if an e-commerce manager did buy on his own web shop to experience the same experience as his customer. That is why we make socks at Actito. I will try to, and we always wear those. And that's what I do for my own. I leverage my own technology every day with my team, and that's putting ourselves in the socks of our own users. And we discuss with those, and we spend time with those. And that will help you identify a lot of hidden gems or stuff that you were not thinking about, because everybody knows that. A marketeer today, partially analytic, creative, needs to be good with copy, needs to be good with growth. It's like, I think even Frankenstein has less pieces than what a marketer needs to be an entire profile to deliver. And everybody know that journey, from the awareness, the interest, the consideration, up to the buying, and then, but not everybody has the same way to touch on those. I will go quickly on Google typing for reviews. My wife will probably better give a call to somebody when she's in that early stage of the awareness and interest and consideration. So we do have all different journeys, and I've been saying something really wrong during a couple of years at Actito. I was telling to our customers that they build the journeys, but we don't build journeys. As marketers, as brand, we try to interact with the journeys of a customer, and by identifying, sorry for my bad English, all those elements where they are, you will be able to understand what as data do they give you, what as data can you collect, and how will you activate those data to build meaningful experiences for them, because that's what we have been learning at school for a very, very long time. I'll try to drop helpful tips out of my own experience. And there is a lot of discussion, even internally, and definitely with everything happening with Google and the cookie, but focus on digital ID. I think Benoit, which is my boss and the founder of the company, is there. He learned me 2 things in my early days at Actito. If the data is gold, that is where it happened. And if you can collect an email address, you're becoming a magician around the data. So really focus on trying to collect an email address. I know people will tell me, yeah, the younger generation don't have email, they don't care about email. They have a TikTok account, they have a Twitter account, they buy tickets online for fares, airplanes, so they need to have an email address. It's the digital ID. You could, if you want, push it further. Mobile phone could be a second one. And the question is, why is it that important to have the digital ID? It's because that will help you connect the dots. When I fill in a form, I give my email in, I provide a birthday, it's easy on the technical aspect to consolidate those data. And that is why I think there is something very blurry in the mind of a lot of us today with the word CDP, for customer data platform, because they preach a lot of things, but at the end of the day, they're just centralizing data around the profile. And that is where I believe that is great, but that doesn't deliver any business. You need to activate those data. So by identifying that ID, being able to collect information around that digital ID, the next step is definitely put them in action and make business. That is easy to do. And again, don't underestimate the power of declarative data. And out of my experience with media business, that is where they went wrong. They said they had a lot of data, and instead of trying to leverage it by their own, by activating their data, they gave it to tools like Google to make the sales for them. And again, there is nothing easy in life, and definitely not in marketing. You need to be damn focused, own your stuff. You own those data because you're trustworthy, and that is where the difference will happen in what you can bring as experience. Because again, you put yourself deeply in your customer's shoes to understand what they wanted. And just think at those forms again. And I know, but you have companies like Typeform that you can have many. How many times did you fill in an NPS when you were buying something, when you were getting out of a restaurant, playing a contest online? Everybody do that today. And each time you can put that email address to collect those information. And that is why I love what Kath said also about starting small. You can really, with easy tools, build those first stages. It's after that is that the automation layer and that scaling layer, when you will have a lot of profiles that can become a little more complex. But if you put those right foundation and that you understand your process about how you build that 360-degree view around a customer to activate the segments, like Kath was saying, to activate the scenarios, then you will become really a powerful brand that puts really the customer at the center in a trustworthy way. And this is just to give you an idea. I was talking about that, John, where you acquire my email because you put a pop-up and you say, hey, 10% if you subscribe now to my newsletter on your first purchase. So you had my email. Then I did that first purchase. And then you did send me newsletter email, transaction emails, maybe even an SMS because you were able. It did activate segmentation like John on a recency and a frequency as part of that group. He's part of that 30-40 age group because you want to leverage that in the moments and think at the moments of truth. And I know that Janine will come up with a crazy presentation about personalization. So we will talk a lot about those moments of truth, leveraging the segment to personalize content, but also to have content on steroid because you will have a lot of segment at a certain time. Just in a simple way, that's data they probably collect around me in less than 30 days. And how did they do that? They start by acquiring my email address. Try the agile way. I think Janine already bounced on that in the sense that you can start with an Excel sheet. It's not a problem if you're still using an ESP. But depending on your own ambition and what you want to deliver, you will have to evolve and scale on what we call relational models. It's easy when you just have John. Skip was talking about my wife Virginie, still pretty easy. I have a son, Nolan, pretty easy, still in a flat model in an Excel sheet. It will get more complex if I had a second child and then I wanted also to collect information about my dog downstairs and the purchase information. I will not go too deep in there because I don't have time. Scan that QR code and we will explain you how you can shift step by step in an agile way from your damn Excel sheet to a fully relational data model where you will connect step by step that data again. And that gets back to what Kath was saying. By doing step by step, you're getting bigger and bigger. I don't know if we say that in English, but in French we say learn to walk before you run. That's definitely the same approach. And that's again that agility. And think again at what you want to deliver to your customer, where very easy on the journey, it's definitely the key gems. Tip alert again. And that is just because sometimes we forget that. And I think it's getting back to the question that Skip was asking about, would we have too much data? And I will not answer that one, but I will give my vision. About 20% of your data generate 80% of your revenue. If you can identify the 20%, just the discussion that you will have with your IT to feed up your model will be much better, because you know it and you can prove it that has the impact. Also, we were a few years ago in that DMP world where we had SUGIN and third-party data, and we had to collect more cookies, more. I think that is really wrong, because there is something much better than more. It's fresher, more accurate. I was talking with Janine earlier today, and I say, can you imagine you moving from a city to another one, and your preferred store is still the one in the country you were living before, but not your new one. So recency is something really key. And I will quickly ship an example. Ask your customers 2 times a year, are those data still accurate? Just by pulling those in the email and putting a little button that say, update my data, you're refreshing your data, and you will have probably something around 20 and 30% of the people doing that. So the recency is really key into mastering, again, your segmentation, your triggers. Own the data is something, or win that data by providing valuable relations. I think this is very important, and we see what happened with the first-party data. And if you can understand the different silos, you will have a better chat with your partners. Your stack is a gold mine. I think I get still 7 minutes, so I will try to speed up a little bit. So on the right side, it's more the Scott Brinker, 8,500 tools. We got a lot of them. Keep in mind, and even if Brexit is there, we as the old continent need to show to the US and to the Asian market, there is talent in Europe, there is expertise. There is another way that we address the problem of the customers, because we are unique. We don't speak all the same language. There are, I think, 24 official languages for the European market only, and so many different type of profiles. And those tools in Europe, they understand the European customer. And that is really different from what the others do. But it was just to boil it down that I think we have something more than like 92, yeah, that's the right figure, 92 tools out of that. Map those, understand what you put, what you collect as those data in there. It's very important, because your main challenge, as soon as you will understand that in Type4 you do the NPS, with your Shopify you collect customer product information, with your CMS you have content, with your CRM programs, it will be about orchestrating. And that is basically what we try to do every day with our customer, with a best of breed approach, and also the servicing that goes around it. But that is really where you will have all that value. And that is where, to get back to Kath, automating those stuff that you have been testing is orchestration. And that is where you will have more power, because what works will still be working, and where you need to fix it, you will be able to have time, energy, creativity to fix it. So really important to take that into consideration. GDPR also apply, and I will be honest, I hate those letters because it's really annoying in every discussion we're having with prospects and clients, but I do think GDPR is doing something amazingly great for us marketers. It forces us to think about, why do you want that data? What the hell are you going to do with that data? And how long will you keep that data? Just by doing that, if you take those 90 tools or 92 tools, all that information, and that you put the customer again on top, and that you say, what do I really need? You will see that you will have a much easier model to implement, and you will be able really to start small and scale all the way. So GDPR, consider it more as an asset for us than as a blocking point. I think it's important to keep that in mind. And at the end of the day, when you have been doing all I'm saying here, that is the kind of graphic you can come up. We have a stores, a social network, smart force behavior, the e-commerce, we have a campaigning, we have some reporting tools, and that comes into a marketing database. And I want really to insist on that. And that is probably my only sales plug I'm doing. That is what we do at Actito. People were calling that CRM 10 years ago, then it's CDP. It's at the end of the day, it's a database that allows your marketing team team to build meaningful relation with your customer and bring money at the end of the day so that your business can scale and that you can do more for your customer. That's what you want. Let's use the acronym, the buzzword that you want. But at the end of the day, for me, it's we want a database that marketing can exploit to provide meaningful relations to their customers. And if that's the only thing you take with you today, I will be more than happy. So hello, John Doe. This is just to give you an idea. And we use a lot that graphic just to help people focus. I think it's really important. If you take your mailbox, you opening probably a few percentage of the amount of email you're receiving. And then people will say, Adidas, for example, I get 4 emails a week from them. And sometimes I'm opening them and sometimes I buy of them. And those are those touch points that they try to build on that wheel again. If they know, and that is what Kath was saying with the recency, if John buys sneakers every 6 months and that we're on month 8 and they didn't buy the sneakers, pretty sure that he's been buying not Adidas, but another brands because he was really addicted to every 6 month new shoes. That is where you need to understand as a marketer that you build profitable companies. This is where your CFO will love you. This is where your CEO love you. 15 years ago, it was billboards. We couldn't measure. Today, we can measure a lot with marketing. So you need to be a profitable center for your company by maximizing all those touch points, depending on where you want to focus. And sometimes this is how we do it with our customer. We say, where do we put on energy for the 4 coming weeks? It can be about upselling, it can be about retention, it can be about cross-sell, it can even be about attracting new customers because we will be testing stuff. But keep that graphic, snapshot it, make a picture of it, and talk with your team. Where do you think that if we put our energy, we will put the most impact on the revenue of the company? Activation canvas, that's just a giveaway for you. You can flash it and you will see 2 columns. It's like the touch point, the persona, the content, and the scenario. And then it's more about the feasibility. That's a kind of agile way of leveraging things. Sorry for the noise downstairs, by the way. So where is the data? What is the campaign resource? What's your testing group and your goal? If you like that, reach out to Janine, to me, to the guys in the chat from Actito. We'll love to bring you through that. But that is what we call activating marketing. At the end of the day, what you need to keep in mind is we are mad scientists as marketers because we have a lot of data, we have a lot of ID, and it's an infinity loop to trying to find the best fit for a customer that should drive us and make us stand up every morning. And then it gets down to what we have been all learning at school: right person, right content, right channel, the right moment. And that is definitely something Janine will go much deeper into it in a few days. So the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Benoit, that one is for you. And the idea that you need to understand is you need to start activating your data directly. And I think Kath really showed that with a really practical example. And I will give you a few ones. Rasoir is one of my customers. It's shaving blades on subscription. So I'll retake the example. I go on their website. They offer me a voucher for my first purchase to collect my email address. And they were able to start communicating with me about their product, the value of their product. After a while, I do my first purchase, and in this case, you see I already made 4 purchases of that exact product. Collecting that data, having that data available in your marketing database doesn't require you to work with IT anymore. Zapier is an amazing tool. A lot of platforms on the market have connectors. The only thing, watch out, plug and play. The word says it, it's plug and play. I love the acronym plug and work. So make sure that your business case can be leveraged by those connectors. What I mean by that, we're collecting the data, they're sending me emails, and they are testing a coupon on which I didn't click. And that is where I will get back to Kath example. I did open the email. I did look at my subscription for shaving blades. I did visit that promotion on the website. They can then start testing the value of the coupon they want to leverage in there. By increasing to 15%, would I buy that cream? Yes or no? And if I had to speak about where do I focus on my loop, it's that upsell. I want to increase the basket value of Jonathan. That's one idea. You can, of course, hyperscale that. And Carrefour, I don't know if it exists in the UK. It's like, I don't know, every retailer, big supermarket for food. And if you take the vision over here, lovely family, 3 kids. So they drive a lot about multi-pack promotions, you know, the 1+1. I love this example, and this is a real example that we made with a customer. It's, you see, it's grandma and our little child son, I think we say, and that is what the kid is putting, not her husband, not her, because you know what happened? Grandma take care of the little Nolan every day of the week. She pick him up after school, so she buys it. So data that you have that you can activate in the email to bring experience, personalization to your customer, and you can do that on steroids. We had more than 60 different versions of those emails when working for Carrefour. I also wanted to bring down that your data is not only digital. I was talking about the digital ID, which is very important, but if you have the physical address of the people, you can still ship that further. So just to give you an idea, that was my first project 12 years ago. Yes, you get it right. I'm feeling getting a bit older. You have Brian at the left side. And what was the problem, not of Brian, from Volkswagen? In Belgium, you don't sell cars as of October because there is a big fair about car in January and everybody expect better prices on their car. So what they did, they took the entire database, subscribers, people visiting their stores, they had a consent and an opt-in, and they make one unique offer. Answer that form, and we will provide you a personalized print catalog in your mailbox within 72 hours. And it was a really open question from, are you more a rally guy or a Formula One guy? Or are you more looking at soaps or action movie? And by pushing those questions, we were able to build a print catalog with 3 USPs and personalize every element of that. In the case of Brian, he's really into Blue Motion, so the green aspect. He was also really looking at the space. So you see a big SUV over there. We personalized the key, we personalized the, how do you say that, the reduction depending on where you're living. And at the counterpart, you have Isa, which was much more a family lady, but also looking at Blue Motion. So the 3 USPs again, you see seats. That is personalization, declarative data allowing them to produce print catalogs. I will just drop the figure, 450 car where we could relay the catalog as part of the buying process within 18 months. And again, that was one email with one form, nothing crazy in there. Just start doing it and activating your business. Push it even further. I love SMS. I know that a lot of people think it's really, how do you say that, personal to the people because it's their mobile. But this is an event that did in 2017 with my company, with Actito, and the people had to buy the ticket. And I wanted to make sure they had the best experience. So the day before we say, hey, Kath, don't forget tomorrow, Marketing Automation Day, jump in. By the way, if you cannot come, just tell it. Click on that link, and that's the link you see here. And you could fill in, for example, the information of one of your colleagues so that we can send that ticket to him. And you didn't ask for any refund. And we did have a big spike, I will say, in shows. So again, easy data, you buy a ticket, I'll leverage that data in another channel. So that is just some tips I wanted to give. And if you keep something in mind, really think big, start today and iterate all the way. And that is something, it should be a movie, but doesn't work with a PowerPoint, but I don't think that it's that important. So I think I went a little bit over time. Sorry for that. Sorry for the speed. I hope it was loud and clear. I didn't see any question. More than happy that you can access my agenda whenever you want. Let's go for a coffee, whatever. Hey, Skip, good to see you back.
Hey, John. All right, deep breaths, mate. So first off, yes, learn to walk before you run translates from French to English. That's exactly the way we say it. Okay. I really love the notion. It's one that we don't talk about enough. Look at all the claps and stuff you're getting.
Thank you.
I wonder how many of those are, how many of those people work for you?
Anyway. I think we're 32. I think I have like 6 or 7 colleagues over here. But I was really looking at Kath, and she liked orchestration. And I think that's really an important word. That's also the visual I'm using to illustrate my own CEO, because I think as a CEO, he needs to orchestrate a company. And we as marketers need to orchestrate our data, our journeys. I think it's really key to understand that. And thank you, Natalie, for the nice words as well. I want to get onto orchestration, but I really do like the notion of regularly. Let's try that again. Regularly refreshing your data. Too often people stick
data in a database, and it's like a shoebox. You never open the shoebox, you never see what's in there. And people change. People change a lot, and people change quickly.
And you're damn right about that. And I can share something I did 8 years ago. As you know, some of you.
I'll tell you what.
Sorry.
I led you down a bad path there. Let's get the panelists in, and then we'll tee you up for your story.
Sure.
Alrighty. So we're going to go to the panel session now. If you've got a question off the back of John's presentation, just hang on to it for a second, because the questions don't go with us. So if you hang on to it, put it in the Q&A. We had some questions from Cass. I got those, but just want to make sure we don't miss anything. All right, and we're back. Welcome to the stage, everybody. Jonathan, before we get back to your orchestration question or story there, let me just introduce the our two new panelists. So we have Jessica Evans-Tudor, and she's the senior CRM manager at Rated People. Jess is dedicated to driving customer loyalty and engagement through the use of data, insights, and new technologies. She's worked with leading brands across the fashion, beauty, wellness, travel, and service industries to deliver personalized customer experiences. And then I don't know if it's the same pattern for everybody, but down the bottom right for me is Natalie Hutton, who's the head of customer from Not on the High Street. Natalie is a CRM specialist with 20 years experience in client and agency side, developing communication and data strategies for consumer-first brands such as T-Mobile, Tesco Clubcard, EasyJet, and obviously now Not on the High Street. Passionate about creating multi-channel personalized customer experiences utilizing data, technology, and creativity to drive engagement, efficacy, and value. Love the word efficacy, Natalie. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very
much. So, folks, as I said, don't be afraid to get your questions in the Q&A box over on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll get going with the panel. Jonathan, I cut you off there a second ago. You were talking about the importance of orchestration. Or you had a story about orchestration?
No, it was more about the recency of the data that I was going to share, because you bounced back on that one. And,
okay.
And if it's okay, that I start maybe with that one.
Sure.
As I think. So it's really, as some of you know, I'm partly Dutch and partly Belgium. And the Dutch guys are pretty greedy with their money. They hate spending money, definitely on anything. And I remember working for an insurance company for cars, and they spend really a lot of money every year to increase first-party data. And it was really simple data, like, first name, last name, and the physical address of the people. And it cost them so much money. And I was so like, why do you do that? Why don't you ask to your customer with a simple email where you put 5-6 data points that are key for you, like zip code, preferences? You just pre-fill that. Every ESP tool can do that. And you put a little button. If it's not right, just correct them. And they do that now since 6 years, 2 times a year, because those are the 6 strategical data they need always to have the freshest. And they don't pay for it anymore. And then you can use the rest of your budget for the 70% of the people that didn't do that. And that's just one simple way, I will say, to get a connection again with your customer and maximizing those touch points, and also showing that you do care about the data you have about them. That was also a big idea behind the GDPR. It was making people aware about what people are doing with the data. And so I think that's one of the best way I've seen, is just ask the people.
Yep, that's a great one. So Jessica and then Natalie, what's one of your top tips for being proactive and activating your data?
I can go. I think I completely agree with what Jonathan was saying in terms of asking your customers. I think it's absolutely the quickest way to validate, and it encourages a two-way conversation with your customers, which I think is really important. For example, in travel, we had a really complex algorithm, excuse me, because kids have just got home from school, so it might have a bit of background noise. But we had a really complex algorithm which would be asking our customers, looking at data, looking at travel patterns, trying to calculate whether you're traveling for business or for leisure, those kind of things. Actually, we added a question within the checkout process. why are you traveling? And it was worded in a really simple way. We moved the position round on a regular basis so that we knew it wasn't always people choosing the option on the right, but actually accurately asking it the information. It helped develop our business leisure segmentation in a really simple, accurate, up-to-date way. Another example where, you know, we were really listening to our customers. Last year, obviously, with lockdown and you know, really changing world, we suddenly saw a real spike in demand for customers searching for rainbows last April. We saw something like 1,800% increase in searches on our site for rainbows. And what we were able to do was we were able to work with our partners. I don't know if you guys know us, but Not on the High Street is a marketplace. We bring together 5,000 unique partners that, you know, run small businesses, and we create a curated marketplace for people to shop for their products. And we worked with our partners to create a rainbow range. We were able to create the range within 48 hours and have it live on the site. And immediately we saw something like 900% uplift in sales against those products. So to be able to listen to our partners and respond quickly, agility, I know, is a word that was mentioned often with Jonathan and Kath's presentation. Respond quickly, absolutely doing it slightly rough and ready sometimes. I think, you know, Kath, you were talking about speed, getting something out there as quickly as possible. Yes, iterate afterwards, get better at it, get smarter, but just getting something and you'll get the biggest response.
Minimum viable product kind of approach.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Jess, what about you?
And I was going to say, similar to Natalie, coming from a marketplace business, so where you've got to kind of focus on both your B2B and B2C side, having those checkings on your data and who you've got on your database and what they're actually after becomes so key, because it's not just being able to focus and make sure you've got the right product, you also need to make sure you've got the right supply. And it's super important during that time, like especially with those business models, to kind of make sure that what you've got in your database, kind of like, for me, I come at the moment, Rated People is kind of like matching tradespeople with homeowners. So kind of making sure that you've got that right information about what type of skill or industry your tradespeople in allows you to ensure when you're speaking to the homeowners that it's like, it is that one-to-one relationship the whole way down the funnel.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I can imagine that can be quite tricky as well, since, you know, some tradespeople are, I just do painting, and other ones kind of do a bit of everything.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of our like challenges at the moment. So where you'll have kind of like your top level trade, but you do have so many people that will touch on others, like so many other different types of trade. So it's how do you kind of build out a kind of a sphere that allows everybody who's doing different things to be able to talk to the different pots of homeowners that they're after.
Well, and you know, that's interesting. That actually does get us back to the orchestration point that John was making, because, you know, our data life is getting so much more complicated. Not only do we have data on our customers, which for both you and Natalie, Jess, you kind of almost have two sets of customers, right? Because you've got Jess, in your case, the homeowner, and then the tradespeople, and they're both customers in a way. But for those of us who just have one set of customers, which is sure much easier, but you know, we all still have there's data about the customer, there's data about the product, there's data about the content. I was talking to somebody the other day that runs a fashion brand, and one of their biggest challenges is that not every product shot, they don't have the rights for every product shot to be used in every medium. So they've got a database just around, you know, they store all this metadata just around their product shots, so they know which product shots can be used on which channels, which adds this whole layer of complexity to things. I mean, building an email is getting really a lot more complicated. How do you both, and John, Kath, jump in here if you want, how do you manage that orchestration piece?
So I've been quite lucky in the sense that I've come from companies that are very, I'd say they're in the top like notch of using their data to ensure kind of that there's a lot of algorithms that are happening in the background to ensure that kind of it is that personalized experience. So prior to Rated People, I was at Secret Escapes, which uses a very smart algorithm. Everybody's email is personalized based off of what you engage with. So whether it's how you're clicking on the website, what you click within the email, how long you spent on certain pages, and it allows you to kind of do that one-to-one relationship between product and the individual. Because I think for like probably similar for Natalie, your kind of portfolio of products is so large. If you don't kind of have that in the background working, you'll be doomed to kind of going down that one funnel where you try to do batch and blast, and it's just not going to work for kind of the consumer of today.
Yeah, I can.
Well, and in that case, it doesn't work for the brand either, right? I mean, the whole notion of the brand is that kind of high level of personalization of what you want to get out of it. Natalie, what about you on that orchestration front?
Yeah, I would say absolutely moving to automation and using algorithms and data in an automated way is key. But you need to know where to start, and sometimes that isn't, always apparent.
Scary.
So for me, it's scary, and potentially you might also have quite a small team, quite lean resource, and so you have to prioritize. And for me, the best way to prioritize is around segmentation. Yeah. It's around understanding your data as well as you can, creating cohorts. Kath mentioned personas, trying to bring your data to life in a easy to understand way that can also inform business decisions, that can help you prioritize your activity. So we recently developed a RFM segmentation, recency, frequency, and monetary value. That's really just helped us prioritize our activity. Where your most valuable customers are, the ones, that are disproportionately valuable, 20% of your base driving 80% of your revenue, that kind of thing. And that's, if you can understand their behavior and make your communications relevant to that audience in the right channel in the right way, that's where you drive the most significant value. And then you can iterate from there. You can do simple adapts to your mid-value customers, to your lower value customers, but they're adapts. That's not where you started and where you prioritized your effort.
Yeah, and I agree with the RFM model. Like having that available means you can spot those trends really quickly. So kind of if your loyal base starts to drop beneath, let's say it's about 40%, as soon as that starts dropping, you can it's the indicator you need to know that something isn't working or something's changed. And like with any piece of data, trend data is going to be what's super key, because it's kind of like, this week it could drop, but that's normal behavior. So you kind of having the base level is one thing, but also being able to look at it historically and kind of measure what's happening and being able to anticipate those changes. Because I think a lot of us can probably agree that the consumer works in a very similar way time over time. So also being able to predict those changes also helps as like a really good device to kind of keep pushing the business forward and the customer activity.
Well, so Kath, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
I was just going to quickly chip in that, I always use the example of, be the director of your customer's journey, right? So it's from the customer perspective, making sure that, that you are in charge of their experience, right? But I love the orchestration, because even when we're talking about AI, it still designates that we are in charge. And I think that's really, really crucial. Sometimes when we think of AI, we're going to just hand it over, So I know in depth from having worked with Secret Escapes, the kind of extent that they've gone to, and the thought and planning and everything, they were orchestrating. They really, really were. And even though they were using AI. So just understand also, just almost like not a word of warning, but just, AI is amazing and it will help you to deliver the results, but just make sure that you are actually guiding it and you are orchestrating that journey.
Yeah. And I think that's quite a good point, actually, because where I am now, we'll obviously, if we've got a larger percentage of tradespeople in a particular sector, then that's the supply that we need to get back from our customers. So you've kind of got to be playing it on both sides. It's kind of ensuring that you've got the demand and you've got the supply, and that's where that orchestration piece comes in. And I think it would work even if you're just operating on a standard B2C side of the business using your data as a plugin.
So that's really interesting, Jess, talking about, in a sense, your product is the tradespeople in a way, and you got to make sure that not that, we're out of painters today, but we'll get some more painters in next week. It's not that kind of product, but it is very similar. But I want to get back to something that Natalie said, and I'm going to be a little controversial. So this is my chance to throw a little, controversy grenade into the room and see what happens. For years, I mean, I've been in email marketing for 20 years, and for 20 years we've been talking about getting the right message to the right person at the right time on the right channel, personalized one-to-one communications. That's all we've talked about. Have we put too much pressure on ourselves? Because at the end of the day, can we really deliver that kind of one-to-one experience? Or are we really delivering, it's almost like a narrow casting approach where we're delivering the same experience to a very small, tightly contained segment? Natalie and Kath mentioned personas. So that's what I'm thinking of is, this persona is going to get this message this week, rather than Sue is going to get message A and Bob is going to get message B. Is that kind of approach, that second approach, is that putting too much pressure on ourselves?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's good and right to have the aspiration. I am pretty confident that the majority of us aren't getting there, aren't delivering 100% personalized journey to every customer in every communication. I think we largely will start with maybe the batch and blast, the generic approach to everybody, and you try and get smarter and smarter as you go. And it is a journey that we're on, not just a customer journey, but a marketeer's journey to try and get towards that mecca of personalization. That sometimes, there is a limit to what we can do, but based on what we know about a customer, the fact that, the majority of our customers have only ever bought once means there's a limit of knowledge that we have. We have some, and we can look at how other customers like them went on to behave. But there is a limit to how personalized an experience we can create it. And of course, we are probably all more similar to each other than, we like to think. We're not all that unique. But I think to have the ambition towards a personalized journey is absolutely right. We're all just on different stages of the journey and getting there, I think.
Yeah, and and just to add on to that, I think we've got access to so much data. I know that's but we've got access to so much data now, and there shouldn't be a reason that we're not trying to do that. Even if we don't succeed in it, we can basically map the whole journey from start to finish, and we can, using personas, we can try to anticipate what the next move will be. So it's kind of just, how do we get to that place that we can do it in a way that kind of doesn't put more work on all our teams, because I know everybody is swamped, but kind of that should be the goal. And I think we're all customers as well, as marketeers, we know how we would like to be communicated with. And I think if you always kind of think about it from that point of view, you'll kind of continue to be passionate about trying to deliver that experience.
We in our last episode, and I'm not going to be able to remember the stat off the top of my head, but we were talking about the number of people coming out of lockdown who said, the number of consumers who said they're willing to pay extra for a good customer experience. And customer experience, it was one of the questions we didn't actually get to last time. I'd be interested to know what you both think about this, or what the entire panel thinks about this. Is customer experience now, has that overtaken price or product as the key brand differentiator?
I can go first. Yeah, I would say customer experience is definitely up there, and I think the market, regardless of what kind of sector you're in, it's so much more competitive. And so if your customer feels like you are trying to give them that unique experience, and you do care about them, you care about their data, they are going to keep coming back to you. I feel like it's an equation we know, and it sounds so easy, but we also know it's tricky. But if you do, it will we know that will keep our customers coming back. That is why loyalty has become such a big focus, and it's obviously now become an extension of CRM and everything that we do on our day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I think it is a value exchange. I think there is a balancing act between price and experience. I think last year changed consumer behaviour quite dramatically, and people are making much more considered purchases. So who they're buying from, the ethics of the business, sustainability, local, are all equally as important as experience. I think price, obviously, last year will have changed a lot of people's finances, and people are nervous of where we are now and whether we, what the future holds. Recession, could there be another lockdown? All of those kind of things are making people very conscious of spend, and so will be more considered in their purchases and where they share their data. And I think we need to respect that. I think we all talked about, Jonathan particularly talked about data being so valuable, the gold mine, precious, it has to be earned. I think that's more true than ever.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Natalie. My neighbor is a restaurateur, and he and I have talked a lot coming out of lockdown about, how his business is doing and how it's recovering. And one of the things that he's talked a lot about is alternatives. And, before the pandemic, there was a list, a group of alternatives, and they were basically restaurants of a similar caliber, probably serving different styles of food, but that was who he was competing. He thought he was competing against. Now he feels like he's competing more against what people can deliver for themselves at home, right? So people learn to cook better. The restaurant food boxes have exploded, and I don't think those will go away. At least I personally hope they won't. And so it's now he's got to deliver a very special experience to get somebody out of their house and into the restaurant. Mm-hmm. So I think your point's a great one. Yeah. I do want to get to the question that we had in Kath's session, and we've got another one that's come up in this session, but let's do this one first. Mostly because Janine got it in almost before Kath started to speak. So what do you think gets in the way most when marketers try to access the data around their business? So we talked about orchestration once you've got it, but what gets in the way most of trying to get it?
So,
go on.
No, I was just going to say, well, it depends on who's attempting to get it. If you were an email marketer who came up from being a coder, right, who, and then sort of they worked their way up, which many email marketers did, then it could be lack of education, lack of knowledge of exactly how to actually deep dive into the database to find out those insights. If it's a BI specialist, well then that's a different scenario altogether. But so it really depends on what resources they have available to them as to what their actual challenge will be. Sometimes it will be budget and resources, and other times it will be lack of knowledge, and I'm sure there are lots of other ones too.
Yeah, and I think often it's trying to marry up the data. So often it's not that you can't get your hands on it, it's just how do you connect all the different moving pieces together. And yeah, if you don't have that in-house analyst and stuff, things like that can be very difficult. But yeah, it's that kind of just joining all the different pieces together so that you've got that one view of your customer.
Yeah, I was going to build on that with legacy systems that just don't talk to each other, that just are challenging to unlock, or huge queues of priorities behind them that you just can't get there, especially if you are trying to be speculative, you're trying to test something, so you can't establish a significant value behind your initiative, whereas others may be significant problems that need to be fixed that do have a big monetary value behind it. So it's just connecting the dots is the hardest thing, I think.
I think also maybe something to add is also being specific about what you want. How many times have you heard a marketeer asking for purchase data? Because he doesn't make the difference between what is purchase data. Are we talking about the amount of the receipt, amount of the order, amount of the transaction, amount of the transaction, amount of the order, 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 amount of the transa of the receipt, amount of the receipt? Or are we talking about the lines of all the products with the quantities? And I think it's also sometimes a job that we are probably out of marketing. We want purchase data, but which purchase data do you need again? And being very specific in that, because a cash information and a ticket line is definitely not the same. So even if you have a good data analyst, he will say, I can give you everything, but what is it exactly that you want? And that helps with GDPR, again, to ask yourself good questions. Maybe just to add to what Kath and you were.
Yeah, it's what question are you trying to answer? You know, it's interesting, and this is an interesting. It's a good segue to our final question. But I was part of a conversation earlier this week, and we're not gonna get into the whole open thing and the Apple Open thing because that's a whole other session for a whole different day. But one of the things that a retailer, you know, for much like both you Jessica, and you, Natalie, one of the things that he was saying is actually the changes that Apple's making are going to make it easier for me to get some data that historically has been out of reach because I need it now to start to measure engagement. I can't measure engagement the old way.
Yep.
And click data doesn't give me enough. There are other ways to see if people are engaged with the brand. And so I need, going back to Jonathan's point, I need to know if they've purchased. I need to know if they've interacted with other channels. So that's an interesting, hopefully a benefit from this whole thing. And like I said, setting opens aside, is there, like, what's your go-to data point, or does it really change by the situation or the, you know? But Natalie, Jessica, you both, you know, started, you know, you both gone into companies previously, and, you know, is there like a data point that you ask, do I have access to this in the interview? Is that like a make or break for you taking that job, or does it really depend on what the situation is?
I'd say it's probably situation based, depending on what campaign or kind of what the end objective is. But I think for me, I often when I am I'm always in interviews, but when I am in an interview, I will always ask the question, how well is your data connected? And when I'm asking that, I'm asking, how well does your CRM data talk to your transactional data? Because understanding, and I think it ties into the fact that both Natalie and I are using RFMs to kind of our RFM models to kind of build out our segment pods. Knowing just if somebody is opening or clicking your email is not enough for you to make decisions and decide how you want to segment up those kind of different groups of people. Understanding what happens once they reach your website and how often they're purchasing and how often they're returning is what I find most valuable. And so when I'm creating my segment pods, it's kind of based off of not just your email engagement, but your site engagement and your purchase behavior as well. And I think if you overlay all of those three into each other, you'll definitely have a much better view of your customer. And it also will allow you to hopefully not panic as much with this whole open situation that is on the way.
Yeah, please don't panic. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world at all. Natalie, anything you want to add in on top of that?
I think it's really interesting to know what you can know, what data is available. I think it's always important to expose what you don't yet know. And as Kath talked about, asking the right questions, creating test hypotheses, and working through a number of different scenarios to close some data gaps, to fill in the voids that you don't understand, that can really help unlock potential, I think is equally as important. So I think it's a balancing act.
Cool. Kath, John, any last thoughts from the two of you? Kath, why don't you go first?
No, I will let Kath, because she muted, but she started, so I will bounce back. I'll make the closing.
So,
Ladies always first, otherwise my mom would kill me.
I'll be quick. I absolutely love what your friend said, and I actually alluded to that in an article that just got published yesterday in Martech. And, you know, I'm actually embracing the fact that we now have to use other metrics which are more meaningful, and therefore it means for us, it means that we're going to be less isolated. Often email and CRM are very quite isolated, you know, so in their reporting. Sometimes they only want to have opens and clicks being reported to them. And now we're going to be forcing, or our hand is being forced into getting them to actually give us more integration and more, you know, so we get that holistic kind of measurement happening. And then we can actually finally be one of the team as such too. So I know I'm kind of being extreme here, but I just know that often email is just looked upon this as being this, you know, individual, unique channel that just sort of sits in its own little silo, a little corner and everything like that. And we'll just look at the open and click metrics, which do they actually support the business objectives directly? You know, they're indicators and they're signals, but so yeah, so for me, it's like I love the real metrics, conversions, really
Cash.
cash, or conversions, right? You know, the customer lifetime value. I adore that. Yeah. So
Kath,
Jonathan.
I didn't have. It wasn't a secret friend. It was Scott, actually, from Purple, that said that.
Oh, okay,
about
that's
getting
because
it.
he's awesome. He's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, John, last thoughts from you, mate.
No, I do agree. I'm always saying opening at the end of the day, according to me, is more a vanity metric. You just feel good when you get 50% opening on your email campaigns. But if you get 1% click and no conversion at the end of the day, you're a cost center and you're not a profit center. So, and conversion is not always buying something. You know, when we were talking about data, it can be people just refreshing their data. That's a conversion according to me as well, because you can put euros behind it. Something we did 5 years ago in Actito. It's putting in the email report the amount of transaction generated out of an email. And it's just a script that you put on a page after a form, after a purchase, because then you can really say, I bring money on the table every day. And I think at the end of the day, the CFO is the guy that will give you your budget for your CRM, your activation platform or whatever. So we are there to make money in a way or another. We also need to pay our own salary, I guess. So conversion is definitely a key metric. I'm most of the time using also the analogy. When my wife go in a shoe store, you get two ways. She goes in the store, you get the lady jumping on her directly, no sales. You know, so there is also a notion about sales pressure. If the lady talks with another lady during 15 minutes and that she's looking at the boots and not coming, no sales. And you know, that is where conversion and sales pressure will get into action.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's funny. I've never thought of this before, but this morning my daughter was a little bummed out when she woke up because there were no notifications on her phone overnight. She'd gotten no emails, no Snapchats, no Instagram likes, no anything. Her phone was. She's like, I wonder is this thing broken? And you know. And without getting into the whole the endorphins you get from social likes, opens are an email marketer's likes, right? We get endorphins from those opens. They don't mean anything. They don't do anything for us at the end of the day, really. So don't panic. Well, that's all we have time for today. But I think, you know, for me, the key takeaway is content may be king, but for email marketers, data is the king's gold. So please join me in thanking all of our speakers, Natalie, Jessica, Jonathan, and Kath. And also a big thank you to sponsor Actito, without which none of this would be possible. Now, Kath, Janine, and I will be back in the future. We're probably going to take a couple months off this summer. We may or may not. But we'll be back. And we're going to have Tracy Olunga from MacArthur Glen Group and Lawrence DeFern from Arsenal Football Club. Lawrence is very funny. So it will be a great session. We're going to be talking about A/B testing for email success. Lastly, a big thank you to all of you for joining us this afternoon. Thanks for all the interaction in the chat. Thanks for all the interaction with the responses and the emojis. It's the first time we've had that to this level, and it's been great, really fun. Until we see you again, stay safe and make good choices.